Good evening and welcome to the Sound Off Show. My name is Linda Kirker. I host the program, and thanks so much for tuning in tonight. I appreciate that. And by the way, welcome to spring 2021. And hasn't it just been fantastic the last few days? I actually put on a pair of shorts and sat out on my deck and listened to some beautiful music and read my mail and was like being in heaven. Of course, I'm not ready for that yet, but anyway, yeah, it's a wonderful time to just enjoy the change of the seasons. That's one of the things I really like about the state of Vermont, because we're not stuck in one climate all of the time. It can become a little difficult when the snow gets heavy and it's bitter cold, but we're used to it, and that gives us something to look forward to when spring shows up. So for the moment anyway, my guest has not made an appearance yet. I don't know what has transpired, but certainly if she shows up, then we will be glad to talk with her. In the meantime, I would like to share a few things with you. I came across, as I was going through some of my papers that I accumulate, I came across a few quotes. And this one I particularly like. It's a quote by Dr. Adrian Rogers from 1931. Here we go, quote, "You cannot legislate the poor into freedom by legislating the wealthy out of freedom. What one person receives without working for, another person must work for without receiving. The government cannot give to anybody anything that the government does not first take from somebody else. When half of the people get the idea that they do not have to work because the other half is going to take care of them, guess what happens? The other half gets the idea that it does no good to work because somebody else is going to get what they work for. That, my dear friend, is the end of any nation. You cannot multiply wealth by dividing it." Unquote. I love these quotes from some of the people from the olden days. I have a couple of other quotes here. They're very short. One is a quote by Vladimir Lenin of Russia. Here we go, quote, "Give me 4 years to teach the children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted," unquote. That comes from Russian dictator. And from Adolf Hitler, quote, "Let me control the textbooks and I will control the state," unquote. These people knew excuse me, how to control things. And you know what, folks? We live in a country that was founded on individual freedom, not government control of the people. Sure, reasonable work and goals and bills created in Congress and so forth, but we live under the United States Constitution. Excuse me. And under the Constitution, we the people are free. American citizens, that is. And right now, we have much going on in this country that I find, and I know others do too, to be very, very disturbing, absolutely upsetting. When you have a new administration elected, our new president, Biden and company, who have opened our borders, Basically, anyone can come through, and it's very clear if you watch television that there are major problems down on the border. These people are being invited to invade our country. Now, I don't know how many of these people, when they end up sending some of them to our state, how many you're willing to take into your home or to provide for. But I don't think that's what we expect in our country. Of course, we like to help people. There are people who are American citizens who need assistance at times. Actually, if I had any say in the matter, which I don't, except to vote, I would like for the Agency of Human Services to let us know how many people are actually, I know it's a large number, who are living off the rest of the workers in our state. And then find out, do a study and figure out how many people live in Franklin County who are unemployed, who might be capable of fulfilling a job if they were told, look, you have the knowledge, you have the skills, you're going to need to start helping to provide for yourself. And there's a job right around the corner from where you live. Now, I know these are tough times. We've just gone through a lot of turmoil, which is not over, based on the COVID virus. And now we're increasing people coming into our nation who have been tested, some of them not tested, and but the ones who were tested, many, I think over 100, last I knew, had tested positive for COVID. So what are we doing? Are we trying to increase the spread of COVID in our nation? The people who are coming through the border I'm sure they're not all bad people, but we know there are drug dealers, there are child abusers. I just cannot for 1 minute understand why any parent in South America, let's say Venezuela, or what have you, would allow someone who wanted to come through the border, our southern border, to pay the parents to allow them to take their child into the United States. I just can't imagine what kind of a parent would allow their child to be taken away from them because they were paid money to do so. That's beyond anything I can comprehend, and probably you as well. So we know there are drug dealers coming through, we know there are child abusers, and we know there are people who are maybe good folks, some good folks who will be an asset here, but our job as a nation is to have a process whereby people apply, and then we have a firm closure in our border, and they are allowed to come into the country through a process. But it's all figured out on paper. We know who's coming. We know, something about them and where they're going to be sent and so forth. But this is a mass disaster. And we've had enough of a disaster with unemployment and businesses struggling and so forth, people dying with this COVID disaster. And we need to start rebuilding and enforcing positive things in this country. Make sure that our schools are open. Safely, yes, but make sure they're open. We are paying educators to do their job. But in many cases around the country, they haven't been working at the school where the children can have interaction with other students and truly learn without having to go, well, I was going to say without having to access a computer. However, if I were queen, which I've often said we all know I'm not, and I could have a say in what happens in the classroom, I would rarely have the children use a computer because I think they need the interaction with the educator who tells them, writes things on the board like in the olden days, the chalkboard, and then they can give them an assignment to look something up. But for the teacher to share knowledge one-on-one based on what the teacher already went to school for and has a degree in, they can impart the knowledge that the children need to have, whether it's for reading, writing, math, science, English, U.S. history, geography, you name it. I loved all of those things. They were such fun. Looking up, in geography, we each had to, in fourth grade, and when I was in school, each one of us had to select a state that we wanted to do research on. And during those days, I loved watching TV, Roy Rogers and Gene Autry, the Cowboys, and so I wanted to be a cowgirl. Now that hasn't come to fruition. I changed my mind along the way. But at that time, Texas was my state. I had to do my research on Texas because I associated that with the Cowboys and cowgirls. So, but I did my research on what the state was all about and what their produce was and how the state, developed and made money and provided jobs and everything. And that was fascinating. And then there was, in 8th grade, my favorite teacher, Mr. Hunter, taught U.S. history, and it was amazing. It was so interesting. We had to, he just made it so fascinating, told us stories, and at one point, after learning quite a bit about how the country was founded, we had to write a newspaper, a one-page, like a front page of a newspaper. I think I still have mine at home. If I had known I was going to be doing the show solo, I would have brought it, but maybe another time. But it was such fun because it was made interesting, and it was an interaction with the teacher who was imparting knowledge and creating an interesting scenario for us and literally teaching us. I cannot imagine being a student in school today and having to sit in front of a computer and, yeah, sure, it's okay to look something up quickly, do a little research, but as far as sitting in front of a computer all day, no way. Anyway, just a few of my thoughts on education, which is so critically important. There's not a more important job than to be a qualified, just wonderful teacher who loves what they're doing. And, I have a friend whose daughter is a teacher in this state. I won't mention where, but she teaches 5th grade. And she is a very disciplined person in her own right. And she raises her children that way. So the first day of school, when the children all get seated, she tells them that here's how this classroom is run, how I run it, and if you need something, you come to me if you have a problem, and we will work it out together. Okay? So she has discipline in the classroom, and the children really have an atmosphere where it's possible for them to listen, pay attention, and learn. So the teacher does so well. She's been teaching for several years. The superintendent of schools actually came to her classroom and spoke with her privately and said, "What are you doing? Your students just do so well compared to, students in other classes. What are you doing?" So she continued to do her good work, and then the next year, that would be this school year, which I don't know if that particular school's been in full session or not, but at the beginning, she was given 9 special needs students in her classroom. Now, we all have a heart for children who have special needs, no question. And there need to be modifications for their needs. However, to have 9 special needs children in your classroom can be quite a challenge, to say the least. So this teacher went to the school principal and said, "What about the other teachers? Oh, they each have 3. So, because she's such a great teacher and gets great results, she was given more of a challenge, more of a difficult responsibility. I don't know if you think that's fair, but I sure don't. But that's just one story about some things that go on in the education system. And believe me, I am a big proponent of education. And I think we should give the teachers every opportunity to do their best and to give their best to the students, because those children are the future of our country. And getting back to U.S. history, those students need to learn about the founding of our country and why they have rights and freedoms and opportunities and responsibilities. Oh, I had written down something at home, and I don't know if I brought it, but I don't think I did. But it has something to do with how children progress in life. I don't think I brought it. I guess it's for another night. But the things that happen in a child's life that help them to become a person who fulfills their capabilities and who understands that in order to get ahead in life, you need to discipline yourself, you need to work hard, you need to set goals, and you need to have as positive an attitude as possible. And what is the foundation for all of that, folks? The foundation for that is the family. When parents teach their children to be responsible, to develop a work ethic because they have little jobs to do at home when they're small, and the bigger they get, the bigger the jobs get, and then the parent checks to see what kind of a job you did and then praises you or teaches you to do better. And then maybe when you get a little older, you get an allowance because you're doing more work. And then you learn, about handling money. I mean, this all begins in the home. And then it can be that knowledge and those skills can be transferred to the classroom. You pay attention. If you're going to learn, you don't learn anything if you don't pay attention, right? And the same thing goes for at home between the parent and the child. So these are just a few of the things that I hope that folks at home and in the schools are employing. Okay, so what I see happening in the state of Vermont, mostly in the last few years, is that the state is taking over too many aspects of our lives. We are free, independent citizens, all right, with responsibilities and opportunities. But when the government controls education, it used to be, now I know I go back a few years, folks, there's no secret there if you check out the white stuff on my head, but schools were a community responsibility. I grew up in New Jersey in a little community, and the school was run by the town. Now, what we have today is Common Core curriculum, which was designed by a group of about 7 or so people. Bill Gates was on that committee, multi-billionaire. Not that there's anything wrong with being a billionaire as long as you're an honorable person, but I guess I'm not in control of that or anything else except myself. But this Common Core education curriculum, I would like to get my hands on it, because I've spoken with seniors in high school a couple of years ago who were so upset. They wanted to go off to college, but because they didn't have, what is it called? Your grades to pass on to a college, which the colleges like to have. I forget what it's called. I'll think of it. But they couldn't send anything off to the school and to prove that they had worked hard or done well, and they were really upset. And this proficiency learning, give me a break. Give a test, give a written test. You teach the material that the children are to learn, and then you give a written test for them to answer questions to see what they learned, what they know. And then you have something verifiable. Okay, you got all the questions right. All 20 questions, you got the right answers, you get 100. You get half of them right, you get a 50. Whatever that translates into an A, B, C, or D, but I don't even know if they're giving A, B, C's, or D's anymore. But you need to have something to work toward that says, oh, great, I learned this, okay? And I have proof of that. But today, everything seems to be, you know, if there's a teacher out there who wants to call in and you know, tell me I'm wrong, I'd be happy to hear whatever you have to say. Because we're all in this together, folks. We need our children to be well-educated, informed citizens about their country, our country, and just just productive. And they'll feel good about themselves, they'll get ahead in life, and then they'll set an example for their children. I mean, that's just, a process that works beautifully. It isn't always easy, but life isn't easy. We all go through tough times. I've had my share. But when you start life at home, learning personal responsibility and accountability for the kind of job you did, you take that knowledge and that skill along with you in the various aspects of your life. And that's a gift. So, back to what's going on. Education is being controlled by government instead of communities. The state wants to, I can't believe this, force private businesses to pay a certain hourly wage. That's not the state's business. That is an agreement between the employer and the employee. And the state needs to get out of that. That's none of their business. If you want a better wage, you be the best employee in that company. And you'll believe me, your employer will appreciate you and increase your pay. If they don't, and you know that you're a good employee, you look elsewhere. I've done it. Worked out great. Okay. You have, the state is trying to control our Second Amendment right to own guns. And that's a constitutional right, folks. So they shouldn't be doing that. Let me see. Oh, they don't want us putting propane in our, to heat our houses or homes, or gasoline in our cars. Leave us alone. Let us make our own decisions and support the kinds of businesses that meet our needs. Where's the freedom, folks? Government is just into, controlling how much you get paid, controlling the education curriculum, the Global Warming Solutions Act, a 23-member appointed climate council. And some of those people on that council have, how do I put this? They may have a conflict of interest, let's put it that way. They're trying to support a certain entity by serving on that council. But we have too many committees, councils, and so forth of unelected people, appointed people, and that shouldn't be happening. I don't know why that's happening, but I do not like that. We have elected people, we have business people, we don't need people appointed to committees to start controlling what we people can do and what we can't. And by the way, the budget for the Green Mountain Care Board that's caused is $1.46 billion for the unelected people, okay? But the Green Mountain Care Board is causing a lot of problems for the hospitals. One Care Vermont has to go, let private enterprise do its thing. We've got to get back to freedom and allowing people to do what's best for their business. So, anyway. And by the way, Congress, it has the power to control invasions into our country. Well, look what's happening now. They want all of these people coming in. We have no idea who they are or how they're going to affect our country. And all these young people in horrible conditions, circumstances. It's terrible. I know this is all a downer, folks, a lot of it. But I have faith that we will stand up and we will fight back as citizens, and we will fight for our country to get our freedoms, rights, responsibilities, and opportunities back, and to get government off our backs. We're capable, and we need to do it, and our children need to be taught that too, so that they can proceed into the future with a country of freedom of American citizens. Okay. I guess that is, I'm going to, in just a few minutes, call it a day. I hope my anticipated guest is okay. I will say goodnight for now. Enjoy this beautiful weather, and I will see you again next week. Take care. God bless. Good night.